What's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of this Ancient Ordinary podcast. This is episode number 24. Yeah, number 24. What's up, man? What's up? How are we doing? We are in part 3 of our series. Whew, let's take deep breaths, okay. Last 2 were a lot. Especially last one. I still have feelings and emotions left over from that. I might have to come back and talk about that again. But yeah, it felt good to discuss finally and just have that conversation. How are we doing? How are we feeling? How's everything? Let's stay hydrated, stay educated. Trying to do that myself. These last few pods, y'all see me with a seltzer. That is my beverage of choice. No sponsor, and that's all right. But delicious still. Excuse me. Are we ready to hop into it? This pod, this specific one within this whole series, I think is almost a foundational piece. So last pod or the pod, I can't remember, one of these few pods, I spoke about the most important part of a fight is to know you're in a fight. So I think maybe this is a hear me out segment. Like, maybe the hear me out, let me land. It's gonna take a while to land. I think the most important part of a fight is knowing you're in a fight. And then once you're in a fight, well, what do you do? How does it go? And before I even go there, I was talking to a friend about the idea of like language and narratives and our interpretation and understanding of things, right? And just stick with me. It might get a little philosophical, but just stick with me. Like, have you ever thought about how language shapes everything? Right? Like, how you say something, right? The tone, the inflection, the words you chose to use to communicate whatever it is you were trying to communicate. Have you ever thought about how important those things are? Like, how meaningful they are to how we communicate? And I was thinking about that in a biblical sense, and just in a political sense, and just in general. Because of our ability to read, write, and understand today. Does that make sense? Like, I'm thinking about how important and significant language is, because I'm not sure we all feel the same way about language, and I think that perspective is a filter through which we read, if we can read today. Like, and I'm not even being funny, like, some people really can't read. And I think semantics and all of those things matter. I think how someone says things like, are you telling the truth, or are you like spinning something to kind of like make me feel better about the thing I asked you about? Like, that happens a lot in politics, right? And I think that's almost like a communication and interpretation conversation. And then I also think our ability to gather information is important too, right? Like, someone says something, and I struggle with this too. Do I take their word as bond, or do I fact check it? Now, this is a product of society, because back when I was in school, aging myself a bit, Wikipedia was the thing, but they often told you don't trust Wikipedia, because Wikipedia is, you can edit that. Anyone could get access to Wikipedia. So, and I think that is true, at least back then. So they're like, always verify, always have at least a couple of sources for whatever it is you're seeing on Wikipedia. We don't do that no more. And again, me included, sometimes I'll read something on Twitter and I'm like, that is a fact. But like, I'm really trying more and more, because anything I'm saying to you guys, a lot of times I use with myself, and I'm reflecting within myself. Like, am I taking time to fact check something? Am I taking time to scan an article, listen to a like, am I taking time to verify where this information is coming from, or am I only trusting some sources? And it is hard, especially now in the climate we're living in, to even trust news sources. It is a very difficult thing because, as you've seen with the genocide currently taking place, over 680,000 reported killed, over 75% of that women and children. The news outlets have stayed on the number 65,000 for over a year. I don't know if y'all noticed that. It has been that number for a while. Mind you, they're getting bombed regularly every day. And how the news outlets has reported on those things, I think is is instructive for how it is we view news outlets. But that's a whole nother tangent. That's really not even what this pod is about. This pod, I think, is more about us, the people. This is everyone. Being able to read, write, understand, and being able. I think that's it. Honestly, I think that's the major thing, because hear me out. It's not even a joke. This is serious. Like, I don't think understanding and comprehension is foundational for everyone. Some people can read, some people can write, some people can do both, but not everyone can read, write, understand, comprehend things that are happening. And I've been listening to this book that a coworker gave me. He gave me the book months ago, and I just haven't read it, but I've been listening to the audiobook. And it's called the Miseducation of the Negro, and it's an amazing book. I'm not finished. If he watches this, I am sorry. Please don't yell at me. But that book is so informative, I think, to the flexibility and the pliability of our minds as people, and especially as oppressed people. I think our views on education as oppressed people has to pivot and evolve. Like, in reading this book and listening to this book, he said so many interesting things that I love. One of the things he said was, when you control a man's thinking, you don't need to control their actions. And I'm like, damn, that's a banger. That's a banger. Because in the book, he was talking about, because this book was released in 1933. So he was talking about how the black man could go and do a job in a white man's house, and the black man, without being told anything, without any direction, will know he got to use the back door. And if there's no back door, he will create a back door to use. I thought that was interesting. And then he also said, there will be no lynching if it did not start in the classroom. And I think that's kind of my point. I think, like, that's kind of what this pod is going to be about today. Like, the idea of what education is and how education has been used as a tool of oppression. And I know these last few pods is oppression. I'm trying to build a fundamental understanding for those who are kicking it with me, listening, the viewers, listeners, followers, everyone. Like, I'm trying to build a foundation in your brain to understand that you are in a fight. The first step to even having a chance in a fight is to know you're in a fight. You're in a fight. All of us. And I think knowing the tools and the strategies of your oppressor is key to you winning said fight. And I think education has been a great tool. The ability to read, the withholding of teaching reading, the withholding of knowledge and information has been a tool to keep us oppressed. The less you know, the weaker you are. Knowledge is and has always been and will forever be power. We cannot forget that. And I think it starts in the classroom. It starts in the school system, right? And because I've been saying this for years, I don't ascribe to the school to prison pipeline. I think that's another thing they throw out there and just let us have. But I think that sells the process short. I think it's more like a school to oppression pipeline. I think everyone that goes through school is having some form of conditioning and teaching that desensitizes you to your history. We have not learned our full history from K to 12. K to 12 is mandatory, right? But we don't learn our full history during those years. We simply do not. Why? That's intentional. Who created the school curriculum? curriculum. It's intentional, and it's all formulated and created to feed us into this system that will chew us up and spit us out every single time. You're created to think, I gotta go to college. Gotta get into debt. Gotta get a car. Gotta get into some more debt. Gotta buy a house. Get into some more debt. You're taught to be a part, be a cog in this system to keep moving. And I think this might be kind of geared a bit towards Black people to some extent. But I feel like for Black people specifically, their relationship with education is complicated, right? Because on one hand, I do think education can be an oppressive tool, but to be educated is the only way we've been told to make it out. You can't be an uneducated Negro in this country. Okay, cool. But this book talks about it, and this is what you see in real life. But when you're educated, what happens next? What does that mean? Does that mean that you've made it? Does that mean that you've made so much so that you can go pull other people out? What comes up? What is the result and the consequence of being educated? What does that mean? And I think one thing this book talks about that I really love, and I know I'm going in on this book, but it kind of talks about the idea of us as Black people being limited and us being restrained, and that even if you are educated, you are still operating within an oppressed system, right? You can go get that big boy job and go work in corporate, but you are still a Black man, woman, or whoever. You are still Black working in corporate. That will still limit you to some degree. I'm not saying, oh, you can't make it. I'm not saying, oh, don't chase it. That's not what I'm saying. And I hope it doesn't come off that way. But what I am saying is having the proper education can only get you so far when those who educated you are also simultaneously oppressing you. Schools in the U.S. are created to condition us and train us not to be independent thinkers and researchers, going back to how we started about fact checking and doing your diligent research and your diligent thinking, your critical thinking. I'm seeing the younger generation today, they don't have a great ability to critically think, and that's not fully on them. That's a lot to do. That has a lot to do with the curriculum. That has a lot to do with what are you doing in school. That's a lot to do with our reliance on technology. And that's a podcast in and of itself. Technology taking away the need to learn skills that are necessary to be functional human beings in this society. In 1933, this author was talking about how the Black community was less skilled than they were when they were enslaved. And now, almost 100 years later, we're seeing how we're all individually less skilled than we were before technology. Just because time is passing and technology is growing and expanding doesn't mean that it's always a benefit. But again, that's another pod for another day. But I do think the ability to critically think, the ability to have questions, to be curious, to challenge. We go through that wash cycle of almost conditioning, and then we're meant to believe that oppression is just a natural cycle of life. Well, racism doesn't exist. Life is just hard. No, see, right? No. But again, you see the importance of language, right? We're talking about the same situation, but we're using two very different statements to describe the experience. Life is really hard. No, racism exists. You see how important and keen that is, because why would you ever challenge something that you see but are okay with? Right? I'm not trying to be deeper, right? But I'm just really I want to have that conversation. Why would you ever challenge something if you don't believe it's bad? You just believe it's a natural consequence of being alive, not being Black or not being a minority. We are trained to believe that everything that we see simply is, right? And it goes back to the first episode, the first part in the series, where we're talking about everything the government is doing and all those different things, and it's creating us to be docile. If you think everything is normal and okay, you will never push back. And they are having a very concerted effort to ensure that we do not push back, that we do not find this as abnormal, extraordinary, that we find this to be regular. And if you normalize something enough and desensitize people to it enough, it will become regular. The average American, I have to look up the statistics, so I don't want to even frame this in a way like it's as a statistic I read. I am sure if we look up, a good number of Americans are desensitized to some kind of violence. How often have we seen videos of people getting beat up? How often have we seen videos of people getting shot in the street, murdered? And at this point, how often have we seen on TikTok, Instagram, any of these platforms, people being murdered in Gaza or somewhere else? So when you're desensitized enough, it becomes normal. And I think, again, if the biggest part of a fight is to know you're in a fight, but you don't think you're in a fight because you think this is just you see what, like, are you picking up what I'm putting down? The ability to critically think and critically question things and suspect and challenge things is necessary and needed if you want oppression to stop. And I know, you're not oppressed. You're blessed. I get it. I do. And when I say oppressed, it don't have to look like how it looks in other places. And for you, it may look very different, but let me pause here. I'm gonna I have to go off on the quickest little tangent. Does racism still exist? Do you think it still exists? You, the individual viewer, do you think it still exists? Because when I speak about oppression, I'm not just talking about black people. I think that's the thing too. I'm not just talking about black people. My white brother and sister, my Latino brother and sister, my Asian brother and sister. I'm not just talking about black people. But I will focus on black people for a moment. Does racism still exist? Does it still exist? Right? Because if it still exists, then that means to some extent you are being oppressed. It may look different, it may feel different, but you are. Oh, but I'm successful. Oh, I've achieved everything I've wanted to achieve. Oh, look at me, you. All right. Just because you made it and you are successful, that you are the literal tokenized black person, and you will literally be used as an example to all the black people and all the minorities in this country that if they can make it, you can too. And you can't. We all can make it, theoretically. Right? That's the dream soul. Anyone can make it. Right? But what is not discussed is the mentality. Again, we're speaking about a mind game right now. We're not even speaking about the physical. What's not discussed is the wear and tear that generational oppression can have on you. I did a report and presentation in grad school about colonial soul wounds and the soul wounds that are left on the oppressed by those who came and oppressed them and reigned over them and rained down terror, and specifically what happened when they left. Because for Americans, black Americans, the oppressor never physically left, but for a lot of other places, the oppressor physically left, but he never left. And in that paper, we talked about how instrumental it was for the oppressed to continue to perpetuate oppression. Because if I think that I'm closer to the oppressor, which somehow makes me feel like I'm better than you, then I'm going to make you feel like less than. So I'm going to create a systematic way to ensure you remain oppressed and I remain on top. This is the legacy and remnants of those who came and colonized us, right? And colonized the land. And I think the mind game is what I'm getting at. Critical thinking, all of it is part of the mind game. You don't think racism exists, but it will forever perpetuate and exist until the systems that are foundational to this country eradicate it completely, and that has yet to happen. Systems in this country are not broken. Systems in this country are working and are fully functional because they're doing what they were created and intended to do: oppress. Oppression. That is what they were all created to do and for. The country was built on the back of slaves. If a country is built on something that no longer exists, how do you think it's functional? What do you think they did to replace slaves? But it doesn't exist. Okay. So, the first part of a fight is to know you're in a fight. Okay. So, it has to do with your mentality. It has to do with us knowing, like, okay, like we are in a strategic game, and language and misinformation and dissension, all of those are key parts of the game. Distractions. We've talked about in the last couple of podcasts. There is a lot of all these, so many political things get in the way of us keying in and focusing in on what the actual problems are. Trump is a problem. But when Trump leaves office, if he ever does, the problem will still remain. There were problems before Trump. There will be problems after Trump. We are fighting a system. We are not fighting an individual. And a ploy of white supremacy and a ploy of oppression is to individualize a systematic problem. But again, you gotta be reading, you gotta be writing, you gotta be understanding. You have to have critical thinking to follow what I'm saying. Otherwise, you're gonna think I'm just spewing out a bunch of mumbo jumbo. Or you don't feel like this exists. Which, if you read a little and do some research, you'll see I am just talking about general things that are clear as day happening in our modern day America. This goes back also to the idea, not everything you see you should believe. Even in my last podcast, I talked about that. Your eyes always deceive you. Regularly. You gotta think deeper. You gotta go deeper. And I don't know, I did some research on this. Like, I don't know if Harriet Tubman actually said this or not, but there's a quote attributed to her. How many slaves would have been saved if they knew they were slaves? And that thing is tattooed in my heart. In my heart. And I think that's part of what I'm trying to do. Like, I can't convince really anyone of anything, but I guess part of my goal is just to plant seeds. Like, get information, do the homework, do the research. Don't just have arguments based on feelings and emotions. Care about people, care about humans, and see how the things in this country are affecting your neighbor. Remember, a ploy of white supremacy is to individualize a systematic issue. If I could pinpoint a systematic issue and attribute it to this one thing, you're going to fixate on this one thing and ignore the whole problem. But you got to be able to think critically to even see it. Because if you can't think critically, you're going to miss it every single time. How many slaves would have been saved if they knew if it wasn't normalized, if this wasn't their everyday circumstance? And this is what I'm talking about. Does racism still exist? It's a systematic problem, but it's also a mentality problem too. You gotta first liberate your mind before you can be liberated from chains. If you cannot see yourself beyond the struggle, how can you know that there's better out there? Don't have to be no white man carrying on and with a whip in every community for people to be oppressed. It doesn't have to be that way. There are coons who perpetuate that, same as in slavery, who do the work of the massa when massa's not there, right? You have those people, and you also have the mentality thing. For example, I know I love me some Bible. And I think this is a great example, and read it. Read it for yourself. So, when the Israelites were enslaved, right, in Egypt. Moses, we all know Moses, freed them, liberated them, Red Sea, all of that. God promised the Israelites a promised land. This land is yours. It is for the taking. Go and take it, right? You can do it. Do you guys know that the Israelites, who were former slaves, now freed, saw a challenge and said, a challenge. God said, it's yours. This is your land. Like, no matter what's in front of you, this is yours. They saw that challenge. They said, this is too much. We gotta fight. This is too much. I'd rather go back to Egypt. At least we could eat like some good food as slaves over there. Like, I'd rather remain a slave than go and fight for what's mine. And I think, and the scripture, the passage goes on. It's a really great passage that I would invite anyone, Christian or not, to read. But I think that's playing at, if I don't see myself, and I think the scripture goes on about it, like, if I don't see myself as more than just a cricket, how could I ever think I have a chance against a giant? It's a mind game. It's all a mind game. If I've been beat down for so long and I feel like I'm small, how can I ever think I have a chance? If you feel like you were created to be a part of this machine and there is no hope, there is no alternative, this is normal, this is life, this simply is what it is. If you feel that way, you'll never be able to make it out. And that is the mentality of a lot of people. A lot of people. And I want you to know, it doesn't have to be that. It really doesn't have to be that way. We don't have to remain oppressed. We don't have to remain in chains. But the most important part of the fight is to know you're in one. And it's okay if you don't feel like you can overcome it, like it's too much, because a lot of people feel that way, and that's real. You had a whole country and a whole government working against it. And again, I said this in the first pod, the idea of laws are based on an honor system, and a system that hasn't favored black people or minorities. A system, again, what are laws really? Because slaves and slavery used to be legal. So many things used to be legal. What are laws really, right? But you're working within a system that is not made pro you. And this goes back to the idea of being an educated Negro in this country, an educated person in this country. What does that mean? Where does that take you? This is like an open your eyes podcast. Like, read some more, do some more research, man. I've been having this conversation as of late, and I don't, maybe this is the podcast too, like the question of, was segregation a good thing or not? I'm not necessarily gonna go down that road right now. It's a good conversation. But I do think segregation had a harmful element to it, because now we're integrated, thinking that, yes, we finally are able to get into the same building with those people. Maybe we can catch up, right? They're in this building. Maybe we could get into the room with them, just for them to have vacated the building and moved to a completely different state. So now you're in the building. The building is abandoned, vacant, broken down, disheveled. And the people you were trying to catch up to are in a whole nother state. So you got educated, you achieved the things you were supposed to achieve, but the goalpost will always move, because if it's not one thing, it's always going to be another. And I guess I'm saying all these different things to say, like, wake up. And I've said this in pods before, but we gotta wake up, man. We got to wake up. This is the time. The time is now. The time is today. The time is today. The time is right now. If you don't, and if we don't begin to challenge the lies and garbage being spewed regularly to us, then what are we doing? We're just being distracted by every other thing. We're being overstimulated by every other thing. All the red herrings, like, oh, look at me over here. Mind you, stuff is going on over there. All this different foolishness just to divide us and pin us against each other when we should be in the fight together. But before we can even get in the fight together, you gotta know there's a fight, and it's bigger than Trump. It's bigger than one individual person or entity. It's the whole thing. And I'm not saying to do nothing else right now but become aware. Become aware. Wake up. That's all I'm talking about. I'm not like, I've spoken to so many different people like, okay, well, what does that mean? What would you have us do? Nothing, man. Just wake up. Just read a book. Just read a book. Just be aware. Just challenge things. Just do some more research. I ain't telling you to go do nothing else but be an educated person on what's going on around you and what you're in. Because if you can just be educated and if you could just know that you're in a fight, the liberation has already begun. And once the liberation begins here, it's only a matter of time before the chains are broken off of you, man. But you gotta be aware. And you gotta try. You gotta know. You gotta know. You gotta know the game that's being played. And I think that's what the book, that's what the earlier part of this episode, that's what I'm alluding to. You gotta know the game that's being played and the game you are inherently participating in. The conversation I had about law being an honor-based system, many people are going to take issue with that. Many people. But what about what I said is not true? Who is going to come defend our rights? Who? Not the International Criminal Court, apparently. Not the UN. Who is going to save you? If the US today decides they do not want to play anymore, who is going to save you? And are you going to be blindsided by the idea that this government is not pro you and they never have been? The greatest predictor of future behavior is your history, your past behavior. That is so true in everything, in every field, and in every example, it rings true. You having faith in something you really shouldn't have faith in, but you were conditioned to have faith in it. The system shouldn't do anything else but what it was created to do. I hate that conversation. I hate it. The system is not broken. It's never once worked in our favor. It's always been fully functional. And this is what I'm talking about, man. Nothing just broke down. Nothing just happened. Nothing. It's been this way. It has been this way. And I have more comments I'm going to share in my last pod as of right now for this series. But just read, man. Just read. Just inquire. Be curious. Don't just be satisfied with what's fed to you. Care more about what's going on. Do research. I'm telling you a genocide is happening. And you think I'm pushing political rhetoric. Go read. Go see what's happening in Sudan. Where so many women and children are being raped and killed regularly. Or the Congo, where children are being used as slaves and forced to mine the very material that makes our devices, makes our cars, all of these things. See who's involved in that too. You got to look beyond what's being shown to you. You can't let the American bubble we're in always taint and tint your perspective. Because it's not always going to go in your favor. That's what I said. When I'm talking about oppression, I'm not just talking about, I'm talking about all of us. This is not an individual problem. it is a systematic issue that affects more than just black people. That's it. That's the pod. Read some more, man. Challenge the systems in place. Care. Just care, honestly. The most important part of a fight is knowing you're in a fight. Hope this pod made sense. Hope you enjoyed my rambles. Anyway, y'all. Until the next episode, man. Peace. What's up, y'all? Thank you so much for watching. Please be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Do all of that. Help your girl out. Share it to your auntie. You know what I'm saying? I ain't here doozies. Peace.